8. I'm Mike Graham. This is, of course, the home of common sense. And what can I tell you this morning, ladies and gentlemen? We have got a red letter moment because we have got the first car bumper sticker. We've got the first picture in, and it's from Mally. And it says, "Morning, Mike. Welcome to Liverpool. Great show, Mal." And he's got the bumper sticker on the back of his white car. It looks great. We'll put it out on social media as soon as we possibly can. So he is, Mal, the first member of the revolution of common sense. He's got the bumper sticker. It says, "The home of common sense." Quite a nice picture of me as well, if you like that sort of thing. So congratulations, Mal. Welcome to the fight, because that's what we're doing here. We're fighting absolutely for common sense. Let's talk to Jack Elsom, chief political correspondent at The Sun. His colleague, Harry Cole, of course, over in the United States of America, probably asleep at this very moment in time, as it's 20 past 3. I hope he is anyway, because he's got quite a busy day ahead with Keir Starmer visiting the White House alongside... And no doubt Peter Mandelson probably as well, who's, of course, the new UK ambassador to Washington, D.C. Jack, a very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. If I had a car in London, then that bumper sticker would be on it quicker than a rash.
Well, I'll tell you what, you'd be lucky if you can get one, because we've sold out of them already. Thousands of people are going to join the army for it, but there we are. Listen, we'll keep the next batch in for you.
Thank you.
Big deal for Keir Starmer today. We've just been talking to Peter Hitchens there from the Mail. He said the trouble is, of course, you know, the people around Keir Starmer are obviously trying to make more of this visit to the United States perhaps than they should, because is he really going to be warning Donald Trump? Is he really going to be confronting Donald Trump, as some of the papers are saying this morning? Or rather, is it going to be more like Harry Cole says in The Sun today, how he handles the bear pit is going to be more important, make or break for him?
Yeah, I think that voters who are expecting some sort of Love Actually moment in which Keir Starmer stands up to Donald Trump are going to be waiting a long time. Harry Cole's written a fantastic piece in The Sun today where he lays out the possible bear traps which Keir Starmer could fall into if he's not incredibly careful. And, you know, it's probably the most overused cliche in political journalism, but he really is going there walking this tightrope, because we know that there are big differences between the UK Prime Minister and the US President, and whether they are irreconcilable differences, I think, remains to be seen. Whether it's on Ukraine, Keir Starmer has been pretty vocal in saying that he wants the US to almost act as a security guarantee backstop in any sort of deal. Trump last night came up pretty quickly after Starmer's remarks and said that he's going to leave that to the Europeans. Yeah. But away from Ukraine, you have a load of different fractures between the White House and Downing Street. You have Brexit. Keir Starmer's known to be a supporter of it. Donald Trump's known to be a supporter of it. Keir Starmer wants close relations with the EU. On defence, yes, now Keir Starmer has gone to 2.5%. I set out a timeline for that. Donald Trump is demanding even more. And then there's all sorts of other issues, whether it's on China, whether it's on Chagos. And so I think that Keir Starmer is going to go over there. He is going to be smiling. He's going to be fawning. He's going to be falling over himself to try and ingratiate himself with the new president. I think he will put his case forward. But remember, even though there are two people in the room and they are roughly the same size, the power dynamic there is totally imbalanced, and Donald Trump and the United States obviously much more powerful than we are in this situation. Doesn't mean that we can't often, make our case forward and stick up for our values. But it is going to be tricky for Keir Starmer today.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people saying to me as well, a lot of our viewers and listeners who are keen observers of Donald Trump and how he operates, say that, you know, there's going to be a very nicey kind of sit down in the Oval Office, pictures, you know, a little chit chat with the reporters in the room, a couple of handshakes, that kind of thing. And then the real business, I suppose, will get done behind the scenes, where you get J.D. Vance maybe in the room, maybe even Elon Musk. I don't know if there's plans for him to meet Elon Musk, where they have conversations about, you know, the nitty-gritty, if you like, of the criticisms that some of those in the Trump administration have made of not just Britain but of Europe as well.
Well, this is what I think every administration is grappling with the new Trump regime, because usually when you have these bilateral meetings, as they're known, they're choreographed by aides in advance, months and months prior. And essentially, it's a boxing exercise, and everything is already agreed. You know exactly what the readout is going to be afterwards, the whole sort of communique, as we say it. And everything is basically as laid out beforehand, and there's no surprises. The difference with Trump is that he is known to be erratic. He is known to sometimes flip out. And he's also known to sort of just say what he thinks in pretty undiplomatic language. And I think that it's going to be difficult for Starmer to be able to maybe get a coherent and agreed position out of both of them. But you're right, there's whole different other issues. I mean, J.D. Vance came to Munich not a few weeks ago and basically stunned the audience of European elites into silence when he told them some pretty hard truths about free speech and migration.
Right.
Now, whether this gets brought up behind closed doors, we don't know. Whether Elon Musk gets involved, I think remains to be seen. Obviously, Elon Musk's been incredibly vociferous and critical about Keir Starmer in the past, especially over those grooming gangs. He seems to have reined it in a bit in recent months. Whether or not someone in the Trump regime has given him a tap on the shoulder and said, come on, let's give this guy a fair hearing for the time being if you're going to be part of our administration, I don't know. But there are many headwinds in Washington for Keir Starmer. He's definitely flying into somewhat of a political storm. Yeah. Whether to extend the metaphor even more tortured, he can ride it out on the way back to Britain. Then I guess time will tell.
Absolutely right. I mean, listening to David Lammy speaking last night about the Chagos Islands deal, it sounded as though he was kind of looking for a little bit of a side exit, wasn't he? He looked like he was an off-ramp, as I think they call it in the US, because he basically said, and I think we can play the clip, that if Trump doesn't like the deal, it won't be being done. Let's have a look.
On a military level and an intelligence level, we're very intertwined with the United States. We struck a deal. After striking that deal, there was a change of government in Mauritius, and the new government in Mauritius had to have time to look at the deal. And there has been a change of government here in the United States, and the United States administration have had time to look at the deal. I still believe it's the best deal.
But does President Trump have a veto?
If President Trump doesn't like the deal will not go forward. And the reason for that is because we have a shared military and intelligence interests with the United States. And of course they've got to be happy with the deal or there is no deal.
So if Donald Trump says no, that's the end of it.
Yeah, and I think many people in Britain will be hoping he does. Yeah. It just goes to show that increasingly our foreign policy is not being set in London, but in Washington. Yeah. And when Donald Trump almost says jump, we almost sort of said how high. Right. And, I think that the Chagos deal is one of those examples. Obviously, we do share that military base in Diego Garcia with the Americans, and so it's probably normal that they would have some sort of say in it. But it would have to be a pretty outlandish U-turn because they have expended so much political capital. Starmer, Lammy, Richard Hermer, the Attorney General, defending this plan, which is, I think, deeply unpopular in the UK. Even if you've never heard of the Chagos Islands before, the idea that we're giving away sovereign territory for a pretty flaky ICC ruling and then paying billions of pounds for the privilege to do so, I think most people will think is beyond the pale. And one thing I think that many people around Trump will be saying when people around Trump will be saying to the president is, let's get the details in with this, because it's been reported in the past few hours, refusals to deny on behalf of Starmer and himself in the Commons, that this uplift in defence spending could be essentially just funded almost entirely by the money we're giving to Mauritius for the Chagos Islands. Now, if that is the case, they've been very, very guarded about that so far, and they haven't categorically denied it, then they're going down a very, very dangerous road, because they came out and they said, we're going to uplift defence spending. It's incredibly important that we put money into our military. But now there's all smoke and mirrors about what that actually means. And if that money is just simply going into the pockets of the Mauritian Prime Minister, then people will think, well, hang on a minute, this is completely ridiculous and mad, and it's not an uplift in defence spending at all. So they need to clear that up pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I was told yesterday there was some disquiet in the White House over this particular piece of news, because Trump is very clear and has been very clear that any uplift in defence spending in Europe has to be spent on defence. You can't just suddenly go, because this is defence related, because it's got something to do with Diego Garcia, we're going to use defence money to pay off the Mauritians. That's not going to fly in Washington, is it?
No, not at all. And the reason this currently smells quite fishy is because we know that if none of this uplift in defence spending was going to Mauritius, then Keir Starmer would find it incredibly easy to stand at the dispatch box, not once, not twice, but 3 times, and say, no, we are going to be paying Mauritius, but none of that is coming out of this 2.5% uplift. And the fact that he refused to do so 3 times, and then his spokesman continued to refuse to do so in the briefing afterwards, I think goes to show that this is definitely on the table, and it's going to be as unpalatable in Washington as it is back here in the UK. Yeah,
and then, of course, Zelensky flies in on Friday, so I don't know, I presume Starmer's on his way back by then, so I don't suppose that he'll see him. But, this deal is really moving along, isn't it?
Yes, and we seem to have reached a situation where it was going to be completely off the table for the Ukrainians. But, you know, as all negotiations, they seem to have both moved a bit now. I think that there's definitely going to be some minerals deal now. How much of that the US gets a slice of, I think, remains to be seen. But I think that Zelensky is going to be very hopeful of extracting some sort of security guarantees from Trump. There's no point him giving away hundreds of billions of pounds worth of minerals in Ukraine if he doesn't get that backstop, which he so craves, to stop any future Russian aggression or invasion. It's interesting that Trump, he came out yesterday and said that's not going to be an option for him, and he wanted the Europeans to do the peacekeeping. But you just think that's probably an opening position from him. And, if he does think that he's going to get a big slice of that minerals pie, which would be incredibly beneficial for the US economy, then I think probably he will budge on that and say, OK, we will put you under our security umbrella. But I think there's a deal to be done. And I don't think Zelensky would be flying out there if there wasn't. No,
exactly right. Jack, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed, Jack. Jack Elsom there talking from the Sun offices. He's the chief political correspondent.